Hello. Good morning. My name is Loretta Sykes. I am the Lady of the Light. Welcome in. I am in sovereign domain. That means I am a co-creator with the universe and I stand in sovereign domain because I understand that I co-create with the universe and I am a sovereign being and I am a co-creator. When I left off the last time, I was talking about the hero's journey to coming into your own ascended master, which I am an ascended master. I am a realized ascended master. And I've been given the knowledge from the other side, from the divine, the sacred knowledge. And I'm going to let you I'm going to speak on a little bit of my background. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was raised there. I had two sisters, one older, one younger, just a year, one a year older, one a year younger. And I went to a, a, a Christian school in the 60s. I was born in 60 and I went to a Christian school. Yeah, in the 60s in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and ninth grade. It was called Trinity Christian Academy. And everybody there was Brother Collins, sister this, brother. That's how you spoke to your teachers. You referred to them as brother and sister. And you had to wear the long, you had to cover up your knees. Your dresses had to cover your knees. If they didn't, you would get in trouble and have to wear pink and blue bathrobes to cover up your dress if it was too short. But I attended that school there for a long time, and you had Bible class every day, Monday through Friday. And you had on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday and Fridays, you had 2-hour chapel where everyone went to the gym. The whole school went into the gym and you had a 2-hour chapel. Now my mother, she was Jehovah's Witness. And my father, he wasn't into religion at all. He was but they had certain beliefs. And she was a Jehovah's Witness, and her mother's mother was a Jehovah's Witness. And I went to church with her every Sunday, and she became baptized in the religion. And they believed that the blood was the soul. They believed some things that I never really believed, but they were really big into the new earth, the awakening, and the new earth and the 144,000. And I studied that a lot. And I went with her till I was practically 18 to church. I was even the little 6-year-old girl that was handing out the awakenings at your door. They went door to door. They called it mission work. And I would hand out. I remember looking at it, the awakening. It was called the Awake. And I handed them out door to door. It was about bringing a lot of it that we're studying then was about New Earth and bringing in the New Earth and the New Age and the 144,000 and Revelations. They were into Revelations. the end of times. And so from the start, which I was incarnated at 5, I walked in, but a walk-in is somebody that can change their consciousness into other vessels, and they have agreements with the soul. If the soul can't carry out their mission or decides to leave, you can swap with another soul. They can end their contract, and you can just pick up the contract and finish their mission for them. But I dropped in. I was never born. I dropped in consciousness as a full grown being in a in a 5-6 year old body. But then I had to grow into my body, and I grew up. But that was something else. I ran into a lot of narcissism. My mother, she was pretty narcissistic. My 2 sisters, they didn't like me and rejected me, and I had a lot to deal with there. But I grew up. I got through it, and I became I studied a lot of business in school. I was very good at it. I typed 80 words a minute. I took shorthand, 120 words a minute. I typed, yeah, 85 words a minute. I mean, this was from the 6th grade to the 12th. And I was very business minded. And I took business math and business classes. So I was very good with handling business, a side of life a lot of people don't take. So I was even a CPA assistant. I worked for Travelers insurance companies, typing policies. I worked for Seth Van Lines, typing billings, Seth Paramount and Century. Uh, then I got into hospitality, and I started off cocktailing at a Holiday Inn for 4 years. And after that, I started training as a bartender. And through my life, I became a bartender. Then I became manager. I worked at Ennisbrook down in Florida. I worked um, I worked at Sablewood Golf Resort. I worked at another Holiday Inn in North Carolina as a bar manager. And then I worked in another place there called the Rustic as a bar manager. And so I had a lot of hospitality background. I went into banquets. I did some banquets. I worked for LGC, which is a temporary company. So I did banquets there, minimal side, just some bartending for them. But I met you could say he was a twin. I met him in Jacksonville at my sister's house, and he had 2 daughters at the time. Heather was 13 and Don was 17, going on 18. And I guess he had been divorced for 4 years. I don't know. But our life took off. We went to North Carolina, Fayetteville. And he asked me to marry him every day. I started working at a Holiday Inn there, and he took a job with a Greco. And he took a job there with a Greco generator company. doing cooling towers and, you know, fixing generators. And he wasn't making very much money. I think $13 an hour. And I started bartending there at the Holiday Inn, and we were married 2 years later. But he didn't tell me much about his family. It's just they were divorced. I didn't know he was paying child support and all that. I found that out later. So I felt like I became the other woman in my own marriage at that point because his ex was always she needed, I guess he had to pay for bills for health and hospital bills. And one of the girls, she hurt her foot on the back of a motorcycle and had numerous operations, but that set us back. But he always talked about how he hated his ex, and I used to tell him you shouldn't hate anybody, but I didn't even meet his family. They lived in Georgia for like 6 years after we got together. And his daddy was a diabetic and drank a bottle of liquor every day, and he had amputations and so he was in a wheelchair from the drinking and the diabetes. And later in life, my twin started getting the diabetes, and he wouldn't listen or take care of himself. And I don't know, he started getting diabetes, and he started. But after about 9 years, we got along really well. I mean, on every level, you know. And he just decided to go back his to the way he used to be before I knew him. He partied all the time, smoking marijuana, and I I tried to keep him in line, but I couldn't. So over the years, after about the ninth year, he was disgruntled with his job. He was doing good with his job. They were gave him a good raise and helped him out. We had bought a home there, and he just wasn't happy. And I said I'd go to North Carolina with you, but I was from Florida, and I love Florida, and I wanted to go back to Florida. If I didn't like it there, and he said I could, but we stayed there I think like 11 years, and he got to where he wasn't happy, and he just wanted disgruntled about everything. So I said, let's move back there. And we separated for a year. While I sold the house, he came down to Florida to work at another depot for a Greco in Tampa. And I stayed to sell the house, and once it sold, I moved to Florida, and I rented a home for a year, and we stayed there. And I always had this dream about a house on a lake. I could see this dream, and you could see the lake from every view in the house. You could see the lake. But I found the property before I found the house, because the house wasn't built yet. So I had the house built, and it took a year to build it, and it was customized, and it was in a community called Sablewood in Newport Richey. And it was my forever home, because we were getting up in our years towards retirement, and I had all this planned out, and I handled all the money because he didn't know how to pay bills. He was codependent on somebody paying the bills for him. When I met him, he was living with a roommate that paid the bills, And I've never seen him handle his own bills. He can. He just never acquired the knowledge. So we had a 401k with $100,000 in it, and we had, you know, we have been married for like 33 years, and everything started going south. His health disgruntled, and everything blew up. It was that there was a community that he didn't want to live. He heard about associations, and he didn't want to live and inside a community with associations. But I didn't see no problem with it. We always got along with everyone, I thought. And he didn't want to. He he said he heard horror stories about communities. You know how they tell you about your mailboxes, the color of your house, where you can plant a plant. But yeah, I guess I wanted to plant some palm trees because after the house was built, there wasn't really much there. So I planted some palm trees. I lined them up along the lake in the back. And I put one in the front yard and some rubber trees. I guess I didn't want the rubber trees close to the house. I don't know, the president of the association would knock on the door and tell me to cut down my trees and how many animals you can have, and they just didn't like us. But when I asked for a divorce, because I mean, he even didn't even come home. He started seeing the secretary in Orlando. I wrote a letter to the president in Jacksonville and in Orlando and in Tampa, and I sent one to him, carbon copied everybody in on it, that I knew about the affair, and he better stop it. You know, and he was always getting triggered because he got bit by some tick, deer tick, and got some painful, incurable disease that moved the pain around in his body, and he didn't like pain, and he was just whiny. And so he had to take Tramadol. In Florida, in North Carolina, Fayetteville, they started giving him Tramadol and hydrocodone, and after that, he just wouldn't take care of his health. He just wanted to party all the time, and that marijuana became so addictive with him. He just every 5 minutes of every day, and he would bring the neighbors down in the association that was on this that liked the president. So he was like two-faced. He liked the president, and he liked to come party it with Jeff and smoke the marijuana. And he lost his job for 2 years, and he came down every day instead of looking for a job, whining and partying with Jeff when he come home from work. And I just, I told him, this is just too much. He was just a party animal. I don't know. It just, the vibration, because I was vibing up high and he was vibing down low. And it was just like, boom. It was wild how that, I just wanted a divorce. I wanted out, I wasn't happy, and he was becoming aggressive and violent, and he would hit me, and I even took pictures of it. I mean, he got very violent and narcissistic, and I just didn't want to be around it. And so he started getting in with his daughter, Don Carter, up in Jacksonville, Florida. And she was married to her husband. She'd already raised 2 kids that were 20 years old, but he was always staying in contact with his daughter, and they started gang stalking me and frauding up my lot, frauding up. They transferred my mail and they transferred all the funds to somewhere in Jacksonville, which was 4 hours from our home. Just because I just wanted to split everything. I just wanted a divorce. I wanted to go. You know, it just wasn't. It just wasn't the peace that I wanted. The peace. You know, I didn't care about. I needed to live. We were pretty stable and grounded and rooted in this marriage, but I just couldn't take it. He just killing himself, and he was just. Then he got the diabetes and started going DKA, and I didn't even know what that was. He had to take insulin shots.